STS Doc, Covenant Eyes members, Michael, take one, Mark.
I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for 8 years at a congregation, local congregation in Ann Arbor. And my responsibilities there include care and outreach. And so the care of my members and our families are part of my responsibilities. The reason I'm here today is because I've found in my own life a need to govern my eyes and my heart. And so I've made sure in a number of different ways that our house is kept pure. And particularly with internet software, I've been using Covenant Eyes now for I think about 2 years. And I've really appreciated some of the things that have come out as a result of that. Particularly, I've been talking to some of the people at Covenant Eyes who've told me about others who've taken advantage of the accountability partner that is available through the software. In my own particular case, this has proven to be fantastic because my accountability partner and I have become like brothers. As we've talked about the things I've seen and what it means in our lives. So,
how important is accountability to you?
Accountability is vital. Relationship is critical. Relationship equals healing. Relationship with God and a relationship with a brother pastor or a brother accountability partner is absolutely vital for restoration to occur and for true healing and moving forward from a current situation to a place where God wants you to be.
Michael, take two. Mark.
Our particular church body hasn't come to grips with this issue. And the steps that I'm taking are the first steps for our church. We don't talk about it. I've preached about it in a public setting. I've had private people come to me and I've recommended accountability, but we haven't continued that relationship. So the structure necessary to create a community where men are supporting men in terms of accountability isn't there. And that's one of the reasons I'm very interested in connecting with the folks at Covenant Eyes and also at a higher level in our church organization, see if we can get some of that established.
The silence in dealing with this issue is the precedent amongst other denominations as well?
In my limited awareness, I think most other church bodies don't deal with it either, particularly when it comes to addressing pastoral failing, because there's two sides of it. One is a discipline side, which has to occur among the clergy because there's a necessity for creating a standard of holiness for your flock. The difficulty with that is then how do you minister to the reality that every man struggles with this? And there has to then be the other side of it, which is care, concern, and healing for an individual that's struggling with it. And so my limited experience tells me that very few churches are dealing with it on a consistent basis. I think it's case by case, and as they become aware of it, and then prefer to shuffle it under, so to speak.
Shove things under the rug. Why would that be?
Well, I think that it's two things. From a personal standpoint, no one wants to admit they struggle at all. And when they're confronted with it, there's a lot of embarrassment, frustration, personal frustration. And so then to confront in others proactively is very uncomfortable. I would prefer to just deal with the situations that arise and otherwise keep your ministry in order. So putting it under the rug, so to speak, is easier and lends to a better appearance on the outside. What happens if you become the denomination that suddenly is dealing with pastors that struggle with pornography? What kind of public impression does that give without explanation? From their standpoint of the reality is that most pastors, like most men, struggle with this daily. So,
would you say that the silence within the church is actually empowering the addictions that are holding people captive in pornography?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you're not being vocal about a particular issue, that becomes an unspoken assent to the behavior. Like I said, it can be preached from the pulpit, but it's different when one-on-one someone asks you, how are you dealing with your lust? The president of our particular church body sat down with 10 other pastors, and he asked that very question. How many of you are dealing with lust? He had 3 people immediately admit to it. He had 4 emails later, and he was suspicious of the others. Why aren't you a man? Then why aren't you dealing with this particular issue? I think that's a great example of why we're reluctant, but also how pervasive it is. Yeah.
In a denominational structure, is it safe for a church leader to come out and say that they have an issue with pornography?
It's safe provided you've created a safe environment for it. In general, no. Our denomination, like other denominations, is struggling with a lot of issues internally that set pastor against pastor, whether it's worship style or particular theological practice or a lot of different issues. And so we are not, by nature, a band of brothers, unfortunately. But I think that's symptomatic of a lot of human relationships, but the church isn't a lot different. And so even and especially in this particular issue, to admit a failing is dangerous. I had a conference, small conference with our local pastors, local Lutheran pastors, about this issue of internet pornography, the struggles I had, I admitted, in front of the group, and what I was doing to equip myself. And I had one man walk out, he hasn't been at a local pastor's meeting since, and he said, if such and such had only known this was the way our church was headed. And that does not encourage me to do this again. However, I feel strongly enough about it that we've got to do something, and found other vocal advocates within our church that I think we can move forward with a little more safety.
What would be the driving factor for a resistance within the church in dealing with the pornography problem?
In particular, in this specific instance, I believe it really is just a generational difference. The culture, the access to pornography, and acceptability of that was far less. You had whole communities that were resistant to and fighting for the integrity of their communities.
Let's talk a little bit more about this generational gap that you've experienced. Could you tell me more about that?
I don't think my father could ever even conceive of the accessibility of pornography. In fact, I know this because I've watched him on the computer. He's clumsy. Things need to be explained to him for him to gain access to various things. I'm of a different generation. For me, I grew up with video games. I have a bent toward using and adopting technology, and so these things are wide open to me. And so when I look at people like my father and other pastors in the denomination, I think it's very difficult for them to conceive of just how available it is. It's almost impossible for them to fathom. Sometimes it's even impossible for me to fathom. I'm already seeing a gap between myself and the first adopters of all the handheld devices. I'm of the PC generation. I sit at my desk and use the computer, or I drag my heavy laptop around. These guys are using, the BlackBerries and all of that. I've learned actually through Covenant Eyes just how pervasive and how necessary it is to cover those things as well.
Mark? And how about the generations that are coming after you, saturated in technology, saturated in media?
Right.
Do you see that gap increasing?
Absolutely. In fact, I see a necessity for my generation that at least has a foothold in the technology to make that reach to them. Specifically in my instruction classes for young men, we talk very bluntly. about availability, opportunity, and need for accountability. What I haven't developed yet is the partnering piece and creating adult and peer mentors for these young men so that they have a place to go. I can't be that mentor for every kid. We've got to find other outlets.